What's up, friends? You got Gypsy back here today with week 9 of the NPL. This week we are going up against the big bad Texan of the NPL, your boy TrevCL, and yeah, this match has the potential to be a really good match because Trev was the former champ of the NPL before I entered the scene, and he's a very creative builder and he's a solid battler, and he's a guy I haven't actually faced in league format yet, but I've been looking forward to facing him because I think he'll be a really fun match and he'll bring some really creative heat. And he's got a really solid team. I wouldn't say like it's an awful matchup for me, but he does have stuff like Dragology, which I don't really have a switch into. Like Specs Dragology just OHKOs every single member of my team, unless I run like Max Bidef Toxapex. And he has stuff like Setup Necrozma, which is a real pain. It has access to SD, so stuff like the Navy or a Spidef Muck isn't like a check to it because yeah, it can just boost on the physical side to counter that. Then he has Zygarde, which is a really solid mon. Amazing this gem with 1000 arrows and really solid versus my team. Obviously, like I have Shaman here, which is my defensive check to it. My Toxapex can live a banded 1000 arrows. My Laddie can revenge at +1 because I am a Scarfed variant, and obviously Guard destroys it even if it has like a sub up, as long as it's not at +1. I have enough defense to live a +1000 arrows from full, so as long as he doesn't have rocks up, I can kind of check it with my Guard, but I also have HPS on my Zapdos, so Celesteela is a bit of a pain for my team. I have Zapdos who switches into it. The combination of Zapdos, Toxapex, and Shaman can take it on fairly effectively if it is like an offensive set. If it's a defensive set, it's obviously easier for my monster to take on, but even Adamant, Life Orb, Heavy Slam doesn't even do over half to my Shaman. That's how bulky Shaman is, and that's how well my team takes it on. But Shaman is pressured by the Zygarde as well, so that's something to keep in mind. He also had a Mega Diancie on his roster, which is a real threat to me because I don't actually have a Rock Resist. Dugtrio doesn't count as a Rock Resist because it still takes super effective damage from Diamond Storm. Yeah, Diancie was a bit of a threat, but again, Shaman tanks, even max attack, Diamond Storms, eats it up, doesn't even do over half, and I can bop it with the Seed Flare. I've got Leech Seed on my Shaman, which as you can see, he does not have an answer to Leech Seed. Leech Seed is really strong versus his team, especially as I've brought a more kind of very bulky, balanced team versus him. Leech Seed will be really clutch for like stalling out stuff like the Celesteela, his own Zygarde. If I'm faster than his Zygarde, if he brings a really slow Zygarde, then my Shaman can get a Leech up before he can like do his sub-coil toxic shenanigans. It's really nice to leech stuff like a boost in Necrozma, which is really solid versus me, and leeching stuff like Kamala. If he does want to like bulk up and such, I can always leech seed him and then switch into Toxapex and click Haze, having all that nice recovery. So then we have, as I said, kind of a defensive but offensive Guard. Pretty solid versus his team. He does have Necrozma, he does have Celesteela and Rotom Heat, which is obviously like a pain to guard. Rotom Heat takes like well and truly over half from Psyshock if it is a offensive variant, and Spidef variants don't appreciate Psyshock. I do have T-Ball for Celesteela, but Celesteela will probably be like a Spidef variant. That's what I thought anyway going into this match, who kind of eats that up, but if I get some chip, if I get rocks, then Thunderbolt can do it go. We have especially defensive Toxapex and just Focus Sash trapping Dougie for stuff like his Dragology and his Mega Diancie. So we're going to hop into the match. Turn 1, he's going to lead off with his Mesprit, as I lead off with my Gardevoir because I do have Taunt. Like Taunt Guard as a lead is pretty obvious because I'm trying to stop rocks, but I also don't want him to give him the opportunity to set up rocks. I could have fired off a Hyper Voice here, but he's actually like a bulky Mesprit. It wouldn't have done a ton, like it would have done a decent amount, like almost half, but it wasn't really worth, in my opinion, letting him get up rocks, because if I'm forced into a situation early where I have to check potential specs Draco from his Dragology, I need my Toxapex to be at full. I need Dugtrio's Sash to be intact, and keeping off rocks off the field as early as I can is pretty important. I do have Defog on both Zapdos and Latios, just because Sash on Doug is that important. But I don't really want to force Zapdos to take the 25%, and I don't want to reveal that I am like fast defog on Laddie. So I'm going to go for taunt turn 1, and he makes the play of U-turning out, wanting to risk getting taunted and having a wasted turn there, having to switch into something or having to take a big chunk with Mesprit. And he could have tanked a Hyper Voice anyway, so he just makes the play of going out into his Kamala here. This turn, like, it's kind of tricky because Shaman is a really solid switch into Kamala if it is like a physically defensive variant. Sorry, I just jumped ahead. If it is a physically offensive variant, or even like an Assault Vest variant, I tank its hits up with ease. Obviously I want to keep my Shaman healthy for stuff like his Dragalgy, but I could easily switch into Shaman, I could easily switch into Toxapex. I feel as though U-turn is his play here because if he does predict me to switch out, he can gain momentum into something like Mesprit and a Crozma and start causing havoc if I go into my Toxapex, and if he goes, if I go into my Shaman, he can U-turn into his Dragalgy and just click Draco or Sludge Wave or something like that. And if he does return here, which I don't think is the most optimal of plays, but if he does go for return, I can get damage off on his Kamala and revenge it with Dogtree. Although it will result in guard going down. I don't think he should click return, but he does click return here. Like, I'm not bagging on Trev, like he made the play and it worked out for him, but I just feel as though like had I gone out to like physically defensive Zapdos or Shaman, then he could have lost a bit of momentum there, but he would have also had a full health Kamala, so you know, he is actually a banned variant. I don't know that at the moment, but return was a, oh no, sorry, I did know that because I had, like I said, I had defense, and I would have lived if he wasn't a banded variant. So I'm going to go into my Dogtree here and just trap him and take him out with the EQ. Kamala's actually like one of the biggest threats on his team because it does pressure my Shaman so offensively. Like it pressures me to switch in and take hits, which means I'm a less reliable check to stuff like Zygarde. So this does let him go out to Mesprit now, which is annoying because now he can set up his rock. So I'm going to go into my Zapdos, wanting to kind of scout out this thing's moveset and defog rocks away if I can. I go for T-Bolt turn 1 in case he does want to go for a Toxic and then start spamming rocks, you know, as I go for defog. At least getting T-Bolt damage off weakens the Mesprit, which may lull him into a false sense that I don't have defog. But I have shown pressure, so it kind of implies defog. But yeah, I'm just going to start firing off T-Bolts as he does fire up a Psychic, and now I am going to go for the defog this turn, as he does just choose to U-turn out. So he's going to go into his Celesteela, and I don't want to take a potential Toxic. If he is Stone Edge, he's probably going to go for it here, but he does make the switch out to Dragalgy, so I think that turn, he actually told me he misclicked. He didn't mean to go out into this thing, which makes sense because he did mean to like U-turn out into Dragalgy, so like fortunate for Trev that Zapdos didn't click T-Bolt, although I did outspeed and go for defog that turn, so it didn't really matter too much, but it did lose him a bit of momentum in a sense. But I do go out to my Toxapex on his double out into Dragalgy, just because I don't want my Zapdos to get Toxic if I can help it, and I know that my Toxapex can take on even like a banded Celesteela. If he did make that play of going for EQ, I can scout damage and then switch accordingly. Get T-Spikes up is really nice, even though it does have Dragalgy. T-Spikes up really help with stuff like the Crozma and his own Zygarde, so that's something to keep in mind. But he's going to go for the Dragon Pulse here, as we do set up our T-Spikes here. And Dragon Pulse does a decent amount, but I do tank and I am out of range, judging by his attack, judging by the damage of Dragon Pulse. I am out of range of Draco Meteor, and I do expect him to realize that and potentially switch out into Mesprit, who is pretty free on my Toxapex and who can just click Psychic basically versus my Toxapex. It forces in my Zapdos to defog rocks away, which could go up if he does want to switch out to that. So I do predict him to switch out here, go into his Mesprit, and if he doesn't switch out, at least I get burn damage off in the Dragalgy, which breaks potential Sash. It also puts him in range of Earthquake guaranteed from Dugtrio, if he's not like a Sugarberry variant. But it does go for Dragon Pulse again. He chooses to stay in, so had I recovered up there, we would have been in a pretty solid amount of health, able to easily tank 2 Dracos, but he does just go for another Dragon Pulse. And I know this turn he is going to Draco, as he obviously does have it. So I'm going to switch out here, go into Dougie, who I know can tank with 1% due to my Focus Sash. And now this Dragalgy is at a range where it will guarantee die to Earthquake here. And basically I do predict his Dragalgy to be a Shed Shell variant, I don't really like Shuka. He could be Shuka as well, which he actually turns out to be a Sugarberry variant. But I just feel as though like kind of Shed Shell is better in this situation because I do have multiple mods on my team who can learn Earthquake. I do have stuff like Heracross, so I could always break his Sugarberry with something like Heracross, and he may have kept his Dragalge after living the Earthquake and want to switch it in and out on stuff like Toxapex and Shaman. So I feel like Shed Shell would be better in that sense because you can just he does have responses to Heracross. He has stuff like Alamamola. He has like a bulky Zygarde who don't really care too much about Heracross's hits unless I'm banned. But yeah, I did feel as though Shed Shell would be his item here, but he actually is a Sugarberry variant, so I'm going to switch out to my Latios, not wanting to give his Mesprit a free switch in case he was a Shed Shell variant. I know he wasn't going to click Draco there. If for some reason he was a Sugarberry variant and he stated he was going to want to get the safe kill on Dugtrio, so we do leave the Dragon Pulse. Pretty unfortunate. But, it was in my opinion, it was a 50-50 there. Like, he was either Shuka or he was Shed Shell, and I did feel as though Shed Shell made more sense versus me. But he's going to switch out here and go out into his Mesprit as I double back into my Toxapex. I double here in case he wanted to go into his Celesteela to take potential Specs Draco Meteor. He hadn't seen Specs Draco, would have 2-hit Mesprit from this range of health. All he'd seen was the amount of damage I took from Dragon Pulse, which doesn't signify anything about my offensive investment, so or my item for that matter. So Toxapex is going to come back in on this Mesprit, as now he's going to go for rocks of his own, and I'm just going to click defog this turn, wanting to get rid of the rocks, as I do want to keep Dougie around potentially for the Dragalge. Like, I don't know if he's actually, I haven't confirmed he's Shuka at this point. I don't think he's Shed Shell because he did stay in, and I think he should have switched out if he was Shed Shell, but he could well be like some sort of berry. He could have been Sugarberry. I did feel as though preserving Dougie was important, and I don't want rocks up on my field anyway because I need to keep Shaman as healthy as possible. So he's going to go for Psychic here, as this turn I am going to Roost up, getting back to full, as he's going to U-turn out and bring in Necrozma. And this thing is a bit of a threat, but I know if he's a Carmine variant, I can T-Bolt, scout damage, scout what he wants to lock himself into. Scout what he wants to set up, which kind of method he wants to set up in, and then switch to Toxapex. If he is a Toxapex, if he is a SD variant, and Laddie if he is a Carmine variant, to just trick him. So I'm going to go for T-Bolt. We get a decent chunk off with the T-Bolt, as he does go for Carmine, and I want to force him in a situation where he has to guarantee click Moonlight, so I'm going to T-Bolt once more, as it does a decent chunk, and he's going to Power Gem this turn. It does a lot to my Zapdos, and this turn I am going to switch out into my Latios, knowing that he's more than likely going to Moonlight up, as he does, and this turn we can just trick him the Scarf. And what this does basically is it locks his Necrozma into his move of choice, which means one of my mons can guaranteed take it on. So he clicks Psyshock here, which means that he's at +1, and +1 he's not like a max special attack. He is modest, but he's not max special attack. Just judging by the damage that Psyshock at +1 Psyshock did to my Latios, I know that my Shaman can easily tank this thing on. Psyshock isn't going to be doing even half at +1. And I do have Leech Seed and Synthesis to comfortably take on this Necrozma. I can get drops with the Seed Flare. Basically, this Necrozma is nerfed at this point because yeah, it's locked into a coverage move of choice, and I do have Shaman in the back. So I'm going to switch into Shaman here, knowing I can easily tank a +1 Psyshock, and click Synthesis next turn, guaranteeing I'm back up at full, and then start Leech Seeding. So he's going to go for the Psyshock, and he's going to get a crit. Now, that crit did 55. This is really unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world because I can just click Synthesis up here, and I know that with my health back, I will be in a position where I can start Leech Seeding this Necrozma, because Necrozma does have a lot of health, so his Leech Seeds will give me back a ton of health in conjunction with Lefties and Synthesis. So, and obviously, like, a non-crit Psyshock is doing far less than 55%, so I'm just going to click Synthesis up here, as he's going to click Psyshock once again, and he's going to crit me again. So back-to-back crits. This was the point in the match in which I lost the game because of those back-to-back crits. So lots of bad luck this season. Like, lost 2 games back to back because of crits, which is really unfortunate. You know, like, the unfortunate thing about this is, like, apart from the fact that I just keep getting lucked, is this could have been a really fun game. Like, Trev had some really cool sets, and I felt as though I did have ways to check the rest of his team. He felt that he had ways to take on the rest of my team, so it would have been a really cool endgame. Would have been really interesting to see how it would have unfolded. As I said, Shaman comfortably took on this Necrozma. Shaman got rid of this Necrozma, to be honest. Even like once this was leech seeded, Toxapex took it on with leech seed plus black sludge recovery and recover. Like, I literally took it on with Toxapex as well. I helped stalled out at Psyshocks. Zapdos would have been outspared, probably OHKO'd with Psyshock at 22%, but the combination of Shaman alone would have been able to take on this Necrozma, and I had this to easily beat the Dragalge. My Zapdos beat his Mesprit 1v1, as it was Healing Wish U-turn Stealth Rock Psychic, so he could have Healing Wished up his, maybe like his Dragalge or something late game, but again, I had Toxapex to wall it. I had Shaman to take on the Zygarde. I also had my Latios with Dracometer to take on the Zygarde. He was, I don't think he was an E-Speed. I think I watched his video. I don't think he was an E-Speed variant. He was a Z-move variant, actually. A Z Outrage variant of Zygarde, who can't OHKO Shaman from full at +1. I actually faced a few Z-move Outrage Zygardes in mocks, so I was completely aware of that possibility for him to bring that this game, and I did have Toxapex in the back to switch out on the predict the Z move and tank, and then switch back to Shaman, or just Haze if he did try and continuously set up on my Toxapex. So very unlucky, but it's completely out of Trev's control. Like, he felt really bad about it, and like, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't his fault. It's just Pokemon. Obviously a shame that, like, you know, this just keeps happening back to back, but you know, what can you do? When the Hax Gods are against you, the Hax Gods are against you. So that is week 9. You know, guys, I'm sorry about the kind of garbage you're seeing on my channel lately. It's just how it goes sometimes. Like, that's just Pokemon. But we did make some pretty fun trades this week. We traded. It's gonna sound like a huge ripoff. Like, it sounds like I got ripped, but and I guess I did in a sense, but it's all good. We traded Heracross, Latios, and Dragonite to Riz for Scolipede, Jubilate, and Goodra. Obviously, Goodra is the inferior dragon, like, I'm well aware, but it was part of the deal. Like, I had to obtain Goodra in the trade, otherwise Riz wouldn't trade me. And yeah, Scolipede's a cool mon. And Jubilade is, I actually have a normal resist now on my team, so my team is pretty fucking bad, to be honest. Like, in this open draft system, I do think open draft is really bad, to be honest. Like, a tiered system is far better in my opinion. It's far more balanced, and it prevents like a minority of teams from just becoming completely balked and then the rest of the teams being subpar in comparison. But you know, that's the way the NPL has decided to you know, go this season, and it's a testing season. I think it'll be a kind of lesson for the NPL, like, moving forwards. I don't really see why they'd want to do an open draft again, but you know, they might. I'm not really sure on that, but anyway, we're gonna have fun with the rest of the season. Like, it's you know, when this game happened, I kind of just, like, you know, it's whatever. Like, it's out of Trev's control. It's not Trev's fault, and you know, there's nothing I can do when my win con gets crit twice back to back. So yeah, we should have some fun with our new roster up against Carney next week, so that'll be a fun one. Carney's a god, and yeah, I know he'll be packing some heat for sure. So we'll see what we can do with my new heat mons. Goodra's sure to put in the finest of work. It's got some nice heat sets, and Jiblade's a pretty cool mon. It's pretty one-dimensional, but it's a decent, like, normal check. So there's that. But yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed. Hopefully, you know, the bad luck will not continue anymore. Obviously, a couple of games that I feel like I could have won, but the Hack Squads were against me. So we'll see if that continues next week, or if we can get some luck in our favor. So Alright guys, hope you enjoyed, and drop a like if you did, and I will catch you guys next time.